Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. India is going through an extremely difficult time. At HT, we wish for good health and safety of one and all. The second wave of COVID has taken all students back to online learning and increased their screen time for their entertainment as well as leisurely activities. Our children are most vulnerable now than ever before in this wide open digital world. We are seeing some extremely disturbing facts and numbers about children being the target of cybercrime. Cyber safety education provides students and teachers with the knowledge and skills they need to stay safe in the online environment. Education leaders are doing their part by providing virtual workshops on cyber safety. CBSC has also come out with a 98-page handbook on cyber safety, amongst other efforts. Research supports that cyber safety is now an important subject and will need regular learning programs in order to establish the importance. Is online safety a shared responsibility of both parents and educators? Is one virtual workshop enough? What cyber hygiene to adopt? Where and when to start? How much knowledge is enough to be a vigilant digital citizen? To answer these questions, I have with me a panel of esteemed experts who will give us a detailed understanding of cyber safety education in students. It is my pleasure to introduce all of you to our guests, starting with Ms. Nappinai. Ms. Nappinai is an advocate with the Supreme Court of India and founder of Cyber Saathi. Ms. Nappinai has conceptualized and authored an awareness program on cyber safety for children. Welcome, Ms. Nappinai. Ms. Neeti Bhalla Saini, Executive Principal, GEMS Modern Academy. Dr. Bhavna Malik, Principal, Lovely Public School. Ms. Reeta Sahoo, PGT Computer Science, Montfort School. Ms. Mamata Sanjog Rao, parent to a teenager studying at Podar, Mumbai. I'm glad that you could all take out time to join us for this discussion today. Without any further delay, let us start. I would like to start with you, Ms. Nappinai. When everything from learning to games to social media to ordering food and so much more is now happening online today, what are the key threats to students' safety? In case you could also share with us some facts or anecdotes that would help. Over to you. I think you're on mute. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rupali. See, we are seeing the surge in terms of usage and exposure more during COVID. But it's not like this was only during COVID that students are exposed to digital devices. You know, if you look at the last decade or so, the most favored toy for every child has become a device. So at a very young age, a child is exposed to devices from mobile phones, then to iPads, and then, of course, their computers. So you talked about, ordering food online. Let me tell you this really funny anecdote, especially when you're dealing with millennials, right? So I have a lot of millennials in my office. It could be either interns or juniors too. And when we step out for office lunches, it's so funny because in my time, we would look at the neighbor's table and then decide what to order.
Yeah.
But today's millennial looks at a Zomato or some Yelp for the US or citizens. But, you know, the food is right in front of them. The menus are right in front of them. But they won't look at that to order. They will look at their apps and then decide what to order. So in terms of exposure, the immediate thought that comes to my mind in terms of risks or threats, therefore, is this: we have become completely dependent on our digital devices, more so now than before. But it was already a progression that had commenced. The millennial believes that's the primary communication process. You know, for us, it may be secondary, but for the millennial, it's primary. So when you're talking about a device or a communication process as being primary, you're going to your assumption, and this is if I were to sum it up as the threat in one line, the threat for students is their ease of adaptation to technology. Because they understand technology a lot better, the digital natives, as Prensky calls them, because the digital natives understand technology better, they assume they know everything about it. They assume that they also are aware of the threats in this domain. And most importantly, they assume that the digital immigrants, that is people from our generation, do not know anything about technology and consequently do not know anything about the threats on that. So if you as an adult or a parent were to tell a student or a young adult that fire will burn, they may agree. But the minute you tell them about, there are a lot of threats in the cyber domain, you may end up opening yourself out for hacking or a virus attack. Be careful which link you open. Be careful about using open Wi-Fi's. They would just poo-poo you and say, oh, what do you know about technology? When you bought your new mobile, you came to me to set it up. And thereby the authority figure and the confidence that goes with that is diluted today.
Sure. Thanks for so beautifully setting the context. We do understand that, how the youngsters or the millennials feel that it is, using technology comes so naturally to them. However, with online learning, I think this is amplified further. I will come to Ms. Neeti Bhalla, Sani ma'am. How are you promoting and integrating internet safety in your school, and which grade is it introduced in? I asked you this question because there is, for the last 1 year, there is totally online learning. And is there a curriculum to follow, and what does it broadly cover? If you could help us with that.
Thank you, Rupali. And I quite resonate with what Ms. Nappinai has just said about these children being born in that age. I would say that they are born into internet and computers. We learned it when we were growing up. We would have computer classes and we would take extra classes to go learn it. And they're born in this age. And I keep telling the IT back in school and everywhere that this is a generation who's born with it. So they don't need too much of learning. It's us who need it. So they would be ahead of us. But having said that, we need to be counter-attacking whatever they do. Coming to your question, we introduced digital citizenship agreements right at very young age. So if I may say that in a very simplified manner for early years as well, wherein we request their parents to be part of their lessons while they are being there, and using sites like, kids-friendly sites, where especially YouTube and all have some kids sites now where they can be safely browsing without encountering any other hazardous material, if I may use that word for them. Other than that, in our school, we've done a lot of internet safety sessions for students, like Internet Safety Week. A lot of workshops have happened to kind of bring them abreast with what are the dangers of being online and how they need to protect themselves, like password protection, stranger danger, digital footprint, all these awareness. Also, when we went online last year, we trained all our teachers and the students on optimal use of Microsoft Teams. So that was the platform that GMA chose to use for our online classes, which a lot of schools have done as well. Also, our digital citizenship agreements talk strongly about respect and protect yourself. They talk about respect and protect others, respect of intellectual property. So these are some of the core values of our digital citizenship program. As far as the curriculum goes, we are in the process of developing the curriculum. Parts of it actually just evolved while we went online. And international communities have now talked about digital literacy as one of the key skills for students, and that they should be taught along with all the other 21st century skills of knowing how to communicate and all that, but digital literacy as well. So broadly, our curriculum looks at privacy and security, where talk about protection of personal information, digital privacy rights, and things like that. We're also looking at through a broader curriculum in developing media balance and wellness. We spend, not just children, but even adults are spending so much time online. and into digital world, that we are forgetting and losing touch of the real world. And it is the situation that we are in. There is no other choice at the moment. So how do we counteract that, and develop that wellness for our students and adults as well? Then digital footprint is another area where we have to focus on, and while we are building onto our curriculum, how it impacts you, or the reputation of you, or the relationships that you are going to have in the future, or even current relationships. Another topic that schools need to focus on while they're building their digital curriculum, digital citizenship curriculum, is cyberbullying. Physical bullying is easily identifiable, and you can reprimand the students, but cyberbullying has lifelong impacts on your mental status, on your emotional status, which is impeding for any child's growth. So that is another area. And then it's not just the responsibility of the digital or the computer teachers in your school, it is the responsibility of the whole school to come together, your counselors, your homeroom teachers, everybody coming together to build this curriculum. How would it look like to ensure that the social, emotional, and physical wellness of students is taken care of? And last point, in the curricular area, what we need to really focus on, and we are looking at and started scratching, I would say just scratching the tip of the iceberg, there is talking about news and media, what to consume, what is fake news, what is the right news. And HT, and you being from that world, you would understand that how children and even older people, adults and our age people, all of us are not able to identify the credibility of what is being given to us. So these are some of the areas that our curriculum should look like, and we are on the path to developing it. Have we developed it completely? Not yet. But yes, we know that if we are aware of the areas and parameters that we need to work towards, we would develop that full-fledged curriculum for our school.
Thank you, ma'am. That's very interesting. It looked like quite a robust program that you've created. However, my question to Dr. Bhavana Malik is, a thread from this. Do you think there is enough awareness?
Rupali, I'm not able to hear you.
Okay. I will repeat my question. I don't know. Is no one able to hear? Okay. So, would you like to...
The voice is fumbling.
I think everybody else can hear me. Yeah. It says that sounds good here.
Yeah, you're audible to us.
You're audible to us.
Bhavana ma'am, I'll try once again. However, you may want to join back maybe then in case. Can you hear me now, Bhavana ma'am? She's logged out. Now she's there.
Your voice is fumbling. I'm not able to hear you.
Okay, we'll come back to you. In the meantime, I will take the next question. Would you like to join back?
Now your voice is clear.
Okay, great.
I think your voice is clearer now. Please.
Okay, fine. Okay, so I will continue.
Fumbling.
I guess, Bhavana ma'am, you might want to check your internet connection, or you might want to join back, because others seem to be able to hear me.
Okay, I'll see it.
Okay. Okay, so has she logged out? Okay, we'll go back. So we'll come back to Dr. Bhavana again. In the meantime, Reeta ma'am, since you are a computer teacher as well, and you must be dealing with teachers with students every single day, I was wanting to check with you. Is there any recommendation for teachers on inculcating safe usage and mandatory checks before you start a class or before every virtual class? And how are the teachers able to maintain that decorum in the virtual class? If you could throw some light on that.
Thank you, Rupali. This is a very difficult question for everybody, because now everybody is using it from last 1 year. So technically speaking, they will come to know everything, what they have to do, but still I repeat it again. So whenever you start a class or whenever you have any platform, the first thing is you always make a strong password. The password should be changed. Whenever you have to communicate regarding any of the class, you should communicate through the authorized channel from the school only. Like most of the schools are working with Team. Previously, we have found some free software, but they are having some technical issues. And the next thing is, whenever you start your class, always enable the waiting room area. Don't allow anybody to enter inside. And the first thing is always tell your students to join with the proper name and if possible with your admission number. That is the unique ID because everybody is
Okay.
not aware. And take the control in your hand. Screen sharing, mute options, everything should be in your hand. Don't give them all the time, but whenever they want, you just give them that time also. These are some technical things you have to think about it. But other than that, if you want to maintain the decorum, that is a very much similar to your the offline classes. Make your classes student oriented. The classes should be student oriented. They should be activity based. We should have activity based learning. We have to involve the student. Once the students are involved, then definitely they will not disturb the class. They will maintain the decorum. I have seen in the offline classes also. Like in the online virtual classes, you can take use of technology like raising hands. You suddenly start telling student to raise your hand. You will come to know whether they are present or not, or just ask them random question. And if you find the some particular students are regular disturbing elements or they are maybe the attention seeker, they are not basically disturbing. So you have to find out the way, like give them extra responsibility, just taking the attendance of the class, or just tell them to uh, give the summary of the last lecture, prepare a presentation. These kind of things, involvement should be there because I have seen once you give involvement, when the students are involved, they give
Sure.
attention. They because they need attention only. Once you give them attention, they automatically start behaving responsibly. But if still you find some problem, then we have the counselor because that one or two students will be there in the offline classes or on the in the school campus also we have a problem. So it's all depend on you how interactive you are using your classroom, how you are managing your student, how much they are involved. So technical part everybody knows because they are using it from last 1.5 year. They know they have to make password, they have to lock the classroom after 5 minutes, don't allow anybody to come inside. But other than that, you have to make your class interactive and student oriented. Then only your
Sure.
problem can be solved for the decorum.
Sure. Thank you. I think I completely agree with you on making it highly engaging and interactive as far as a virtual class is concerned. I will come to Ms. Mamta Rao. As a parent, I have some questions for you. Adolescence is a tricky age. How do you communicate with and encourage your 14-year-old, he's a teenager, to share the important details of his online activities with you from time to time?
Uh, Actually, the way you said that is absolutely right. Adolescence is a very tricky age, and there at that age, they believe that we know understand everything. Why you have to tell us to do anything? And with all the internet exposure and so many seminars are happening, they say, "हमको पता है, we know everything. Why you have to tell us again the same thing? Same thing again. Teacher is gonna say." So that creates the irritation between the parent and child's relation. So the thing is, best thing what I can tell you is you have to just be friendly with them. At times you have to take a step back and say, "We don't know, you tell us what has to be done." So then they
Right.
explain, and giving access to their personal online activities, that is totally voluntary. You have to work on your relationship with your child to develop that kind of a trust wherein the child adds you in his social networking. They come
Right.
and tell you, today this is what comment I got for this. This is what I commented, and that happens. I mean, social, usually Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. These are the social networking pages kids are using. So if they want to add you as a friend, then you actually have to earn that. You just
Yes.
can't force them to make you add that. Then they will find another way to hide from you and do whatever they are supposed to be doing. So the key to the entire this mutual relationship is the communication and trust that needs to be earned. And you can't just bullify them saying ki, "We are parents, we know everything, you have to listen to us." They
That's
will
true.
listen to you on your face, but then at the back, whatever they want to do, they will do. And they will find in such a way that you will not even come to know that they are doing it.
True.
So
True.
you have to build a trust between yourself and your child to enter into their personal domain. not only digital domain, but in their own personal mind domain, wherein
Yes,
they should be feeling safe to come to yourself and tell you that mama this has happened, or dada this has happened today with me. So that
yes.
is the key basically. You have to have that trust and relationship with your child. You can't just keep on activating trend controls like parental controls or anything. That will not help. You have to have a relationship with your child. That is a
Sure.
very key factor in the entire thing.
Thank you, Mamta ma'am. I really appreciate your understanding of, how we need to keep our communication channels open with our children. We need to build bonds and be friendly with them. And I guess that helps us also because we learn a lot more about from the millennials about technology. And, it helps create a beautiful bond with our children. Coming back, I see that Bhavna ma'am, you've joined back. I'll come back to the question that I had for you, Dr. Bhavna. I'm taking a cue from what Neeti ma'am had said. She spoke about, how they had created a robust program touching upon various topics for students, the role that teachers were playing. And she did touch upon a bit about, the parents also were required to play a certain role. So my question to you is from there, do you think there is enough awareness among students on the need to protect themselves against cybercrime and cyber frauds, or it is just one of the subjects that they think is getting pushed to them? And what is the role parents are playing here as well? Over to you.
I'm very much agree to what ma'am just said, that the children and these young people, they have a greater ability today to adapt or adopt the digital devices and innovations, and they are better than us. And I agree to ma'am that we need to be more friendly with these children if we want to educate them. They are not going to listen to us if we feel that we can overpower them. Of course, there are many constraints. Like for 1 year, we people are having the digital classroom for the students, and although we are teaching our children that what are the basic cyber rules which the children should follow. For example, like what I feel as a parent, because right now the parent is a teacher, because teacher is on virtual platform, but the connection is now between the parent and a child. So we need to strengthen, as a school we are doing it, we are strengthening the relation between us and with the parents. Like what we are doing is that we feel that the education must include that the knowledge should be understood by a parent also. The
Sure.
parent should also have the correct kind of information. If he has understood, he will be helping a child to understand better. There are lot of friends are there, lots of people are there. So we usually tell our children and parents to advise. The parents can advise, they can help the children to um, choose the online friends safely. There are lots of sites are available. Every day some new gamings are coming, and we need to educate them. Usually we educate our parents and our children also, because once they are on this platform, they have all kind of the sexual abuse also, they have the cyber bullying also. Few people are giving them some kind of financial aids also. So first most important thing which I usually teach my parents and children is to ask them that they are not going to share their names or their identity on the screens. So this is really important, because as an advocate of Supreme Court, ma'am must be saying the same thing, that these are the things which need to be more cautious. And we are taking the emotional kind of the seminars also, where we tell them that you keep on informing and discuss with their friends or family. It is not important if they are not comfortable with father, and if they are comfortable with mother, they can do it. We have even created a room in our school where our counselors are sitting, and beyond counselor there are a few teachers also, and they don't even have their cameras on, and the children are also advised not to I mean, they can keep the cameras off, and then they can share their problem, so that at least, while if anything, any kind of annoying or uncomfortable situation or activity or occurrence is there, they just can discuss, so that we can check on that, what kind of the thing is going on in the life of a child. There are a lot of things, I don't know how much time has been given to me, but what I will say, that the children have to be taught that if any minute they are feeling any kind of the threat, they need to address that. They need to discuss with their parents, they need to discuss with with their teachers, so that it can be sorted out. And we also have, I just wanted to share with you an incident, if I have a little time. Sometime, the children have a lot of brain. So what happened, one of the child, I won't take the name of the school or the child's name, he learned a lot of things. He's just in class 6, so he never knew. But what he did, he sent a letter to his father only, saying that he needs some money, because he thought that this is the nice way. So he asked that letter has been sent. He starts sending more letters. So now what happened, when the police intervened and tried to search, they searched it that that computer was in the at home only. And when the child was asked, he said, I just have learned something new, so maine socha I'll experiment that thing with my own parent. So these are the small things usually happens, and we all can educate these stories to other children, so that they understand, okay, this can happen, and we have to be more cautious. So this kind of the things, the parents and teachers can discuss among themselves. And then with the, as Neeti ma'am said, that we can we are only there to put our trust in them. They can build, we this trust only can help us to understand our child better, and they share with us better.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. And I really appreciate and really like the concept that you laid out about, how students can, in an anonymous way, speak to the counselors and teachers in a very anonymous manner, which is not face to face. Yes, yet there is confidence that they will get the best advice from, the school. And of course, I totally agree. And like everybody else, students need to keep their parents also informed, because if there is anything, parents will come to their support and rescue immediately. That's, I think, one very important point that all students must note. Coming to you, Ms. Nappinai, with new threats in cyber safety of children evolving at an unprecedented rate, should cyber safety education be treated as an ongoing learning process now? How should schools and students equip themselves to effective delivery of cyber safety education? If you could help us with that.
Absolutely. Some excellent shares today from everybody. So special thanks to HT for putting together such a lovely panel. Whenever we start with any new technology, use any new device, the first thing we look to is the manual. So cyber safety education is like the manual that you need to give to your child when you are exposing them to technology at such a young age. So there are two parts to your question. One, does it have to be introduced? Of course, it has to be, ideally as part of a curriculum itself. But until such time as it becomes part of a curriculum, every single school, college, everything should introduce cyber safety programs. Two, people always ask me about, okay, what is the right age to introduce it? and I tell them literally the same age as you would tell them about good touch, bad touch. Because today, when we talk about the threats online, they are on par with the good touch, bad touch kind of situations, So a lot of the speakers spoke about the issues of cyberbullying cases. So, interestingly, the one thought that permeated what everybody said was about, becoming a friend for the children so that they will trust you and then come to you. This was actually the concept behind my non-profit Cyber Saathi Foundation, and that's why I chose the name Saathi, or friend, because the one thing I've noticed, I know I'm digressing a bit from your thing, but it'll be linking back to the primary question. But Cyber Saathi was conceptualized because I realized, one, because of my practice, early day practice in criminal law, and also with all the cases I've dealt with in cybercrime, that the person that a child reaches out to first, or for that matter, a young adult or even an adult, is a friend or confidant.
I know.
Very rarely they reach out to an adult, parent, or an authority figure. The second thing which I noticed was that they first reach out to a friend, and the next step or next call or report of call is the school or college authority, more so than even the parents. And therefore, it is so important for school authorities, teachers, staff, everybody to understand cyber safety and also understand what is a cyber crime. Dr. Bhawana put forth a very important issue of how a child did something, thinking that he was just testing something out. Many times we come across instances where children do certain things believing it to be a prank. Or, this is bound to happen, in a school when peers are there. You will have this peer rivalry. You will have peers trying to do one-upmanship or to prove themselves or challenge somebody else. And children end up even doing things like hacking or developing a virus, etc. And they are so proficient at it, and at a very young age. So, one, they need to know about cyber safety for their own protection. Two, they need to know about cyber safety, the threats and risks that abound, for the sake of being a good friend, a good cyber saathi. And the third most important thing, they need to know about cyber crime trends, etc., so that they don't inadvertently commit a crime.
True.
And that is where I feel that, I'm really thankful for HT for being such a forward-thinking pioneer in this, and to introduce cyber safety as a curriculum through your HT schools and collaborating with Cyber Saathi with it. And I cannot tell you how important this is and how close to my heart it is, because I'm also dealing with, as amicus curiae or the friend of the court. See, the word friend comes in everywhere,
Yes.
Before the Supreme Court. And we are dealing with this very tough problem of rooting out child sexual abuse content from online platforms, and also content of violent imagery of women, from online platforms. The reason I'm bringing this up is we speak generally about cyberbullying. We've spoken generally about the spreading of fake news, and peripherally on cyber stalking or financial crimes. But the one issue that is top most in my mind, and I think Neeti mentioned this about stranger danger, and that's of social engineering, and how that is used to by predators online to try and get content from the child themselves, which is then circulated in pedophilic circuits. Now, the difficulty with that is the child starts thinking that they are at fault. So it's also important for children to know that they're not alone. It's not like they've been stupid or they have committed a wrong. They are wrong. They are the victims, and therefore they need courage to come forward. And the only way that can happen, and therefore this is the perfect platform also for it, is through dialogue. As was pointed out, I think by Mamata, you can't speak down to a child. You can't teach a child you can't try to tell a child or even a young adult on what they should do or should not do. All of us have the child in us. The minute somebody tells us don't do something, that's exactly the first thing we want to go and try out there, right? So you have to dialogue, you have to hold dialogues with them. And the way we are doing our program, and again, from whatever I'm hearing now, I'm glad to see we are on the right track. I mean, HT and Cyber Saathi, of using storytelling or walking hand in hand with the children or youngsters to take them forward towards a safer online domain or digital domain, rather than trying to tell them what to do and what not to do.
True, true. Thank you, Ms. Nappinai, and thank you for highlighting that, as soon as a child is probably or the first gadget is probably handed over to him, or a device is given to him, or like you beautifully mentioned, the time when he's supposed to know about a good touch or a bad touch is really the time he's also supposed to know about the rules of the online world. And talking about the HT course, which you just mentioned, I'm glad it's possibly an extension of a program, like you and everybody else highlighted that it should be more like a learning and an ongoing course. I'm sure a lot of parents and students and teachers will benefit from it. I'll come to you, Ms. Neeti Bhalla. Uh, what measures, as the head of a school, should a principal take instantly? I'm trying to understand an incident for the benefit of all of viewers. So, what are the kind of measures the head of a school should a principal take instantly if a student complains of cyberbullying or any inappropriate content, etc.? In case you are comfortable, would you like to share any example from your experience of any cybercrime that any of your students or teachers might have encountered, and what possible remedial recourse you took?
Thank you. Very interesting conversations, and such important aspects have come out. For me also, the point that when you introduce good touch, bad touch is the time you should introduce cyber safety aspects, and the cyber safety manual every school should follow. Thank you so much for raising this, Ms. Nappinai, about these aspects. Coming to your question, Rupali, I think that first we need to look at that, have the schools talked about cyber safety? Have the schools talked about the repercussions of committing a cyber crime? Have they established essential agreements? If they haven't, then how on one of the days suddenly you pounce upon a child and say that you've made this mistake and this is what the repercussions would be? So I would say that first and foremost, schools need to kind of put together a digital citizenship essential agreements, which the students should be part of and the teacher should be part of, in framing it and saying what is acceptable in our school and what is not acceptable at all. And it should be part of a student handbook, like you would have the do's and don'ts in a school. A school rule book would have that you're not allowed to do this in school, or not allowed and you're allowed to do that. So similarly, a cyber safety manual should be part of any school to say what are the essential agreements. Going forward, cyberbullying and cases like that need to be dealt with just the way you would deal with any other bullying misdemeanor in a school. As a head of school, have we really dealt with very serious cases? Honestly, I think as schools, I know of this recent, my schools which I've been working with, we haven't had too many big issues to deal with per se, but even the smaller ones are dealt with utmost seriousness. If a child is, what are the basic issues that have been arriving very recently is somebody hacked into another child's account and sent out some inappropriate emails. Now, at our level, at a school level, we can, and our IT people can only trace a broader IP of that, where has that email originated from, a region. We can't pinpoint on who's the student. For that, we need to give that entire email and everything to the cyber security cell and cyber cell to kind of investigate. And the moment we've contacted cyber cells, they've said that it's just a very small misdemeanor. Maybe you can talk to the entire school, do a workshop and conduct sessions rather than put this as a formal complaint. Because if it goes as a formal complaint, an FIR has to be lodged and things like that. So somewhere when there are very milder issues like these, even though they're not mild, in my opinion, they're not mild and they need to be dealt with strictly, because the child whose account gets hacked and a lewd email gets sent out to everybody, that child really suffers. And, there's a lot of emotional, mental trauma for that child. So it's not fair for that child. But how and to what extent and how do you kind of investigate it? As schools, we do get stuck there, honestly. Going back to a little incident that I would like to share, and this is something which happened with me years ago personally. So I was working in a school which was a residential school, and the entire internet services were provided by the school. So the teachers and staff had access to the social media, whereas the students did not have that access. And we were all given school IDs to log in. And each time I would try to log in, or anybody in my family would try to log in using that ID, which was given to me, it would say you've exceeded the number of logins. And we just couldn't figure that out for days. And nobody is logged in our house, and we still can't log in. And I can see some of you smiling, what would have happened. So one of the very smart boarders had hacked into my account and had kind of distributed it like prasad to all the students in the boarding house, the senior students, to use that as a login and enjoy the social media when they were not allowed. So they were given a time span when they could use, but they couldn't use YouTube and all beyond that pastime. But they were all enjoying watching movies on YouTube and having a great time using that. And then one fine day when I figured it out, it was like, oh, do you know that ID? It's so good. So I had this confrontation with the boy who had hacked in. I said, you know what? Somebody had hacked into an account, and I believe you have an open ID in the hostel. So he says, yes, ma'am, it's a fantastic one. So he was my son's friend as well, at the same age group. So I said, wow, do you know whose ID? I don't know whose is it. I said, yours truly, that's my ID. And you should have seen that boy's face. But coming back to the thing that how did I deal with it? I could have taken a very strong action and looked down upon him and told him what to do and what not to do. I sat with him across the table and we had a clear discussion on what were the harmful effects of hacking in and what could lead him to do what more things. So this was just a small hack at a school level, but if he continued doing that, what could be the repercussions in the longer term? And I do hope that that child has learned his lesson. He's doing great in life now, and he's got fantastic, superb skills. We do need such students and such youngsters who can kind of track who's hacking, So we need to train. I remember attending sessions by one of the great cyber experts, cybercrime experts, Mr. Rakshit Tandon, and he always says that ethical hacking is the word he uses, that how to train youngsters to kind of do that. I could not understand the codes and all that are required, but a young mind can, and if they can help solve things, why not? So it has both sides to it, good and bad, both of them. But I think Ms. Nappinai has something she wants to add to it.
Yeah. So
thank you. Yeah. So because you mentioned the word ethical hacking, I wanted to come in to clarify, because there is a lot of misconception around that. Ethical hacking is not about teaching students how to hack. Ethical hacking is also not what a student does or should be doing. Ethical hacking is hacking where an organization or the owner of a system asks somebody to hack the system. It is hacking with the permission of the owner. So it's also called as penetration testing, to check for the flaws within a system. A lot of students, and the reason I also put my hand up is, in 2003 or so, Bombay was one of the first to start something called a Cyber Safety Week. The then Commissioner of Police was part of the session. And in that 1 week, we used to do a lot of sessions for students, police, prosecutors, judges, everything. I mean, these were all what I was doing, and police would do a lot more also, including for housing societies, etc. It was almost one of the first sessions we are doing in the first Cyber Safety Week and for college students. And the first question that came up was, if I hack, is it a crime? That's the very first question every child wanted to know. And when I was talking about hacking, etc., with some kids in my housing society, the first thing they told me was, because they asked me about which Wi-Fi I used, and I said my own, and they said, loser. why would you use your own Wi-Fi? You could hack into, we can hack into 5 different Wi-Fis in just one tower itself, and they don't realize the difference between what is permissible and what is not,
Sure.
and what is wrong and what is a crime. That's the larger issue. And that's why I wanted to come in, because it's very misleading to use the word ethical hacking and students in the same breath, because they don't understand that just learning to hack and trying something out itself may not be permissible beyond a controlled environment. Beyond that, only with permission, doing something which violates the rights of the owners is permissible. Anything without the right of the owner is a crime. It's not just a wrong, it's not just a violation, it's a crime. And wonderfully put, Neeti ma'am, in terms of how you have dealt with your situation.
Thank you, Ms. Neeti. Thank you, Ms. Nappinai. I will just continue with you, Ms. Nappinai. I have another question for you. With the novel methods of cybercrime that we see each day, and how you and Neeti ma'am just highlighted, that cyber education is extremely important. Also, not to just know that you shouldn't be a victim to a crime, you should unknowingly not be, a perpetrator of the crime as well. Yeah. So, could you, share with us or give us an advice to students, parents, and schools on the legal recourse of action to get justice in case there is, any of this that happens? That the legal route is something that most of us are not aware of, which way to go and where to go.
Thank you. Yes, that's a really important thing. And I think what Neeti just shared is the perfect segue for this question also. Two things, one of the issues that I notice mostly is there is a lot of trust deficit when it comes to seeking recourse under law. And the trust deficit then results in two things. One is either victims feeling completely demoralized because they believe they have no remedies in law. And two, which is the more worrisome trend, which is vigilante justice. So the best way to protect against both is to start trusting systems and understanding that every single violation has a remedy. You have to take recourse under law, because in life we don't get a better chance than 50-50, right? So why not take that chance with the legal systems also? And one of the other reasons why I started Cyber Saathi was when I was giving a session, I was speaking about data protection, while another practitioner, a professional, was referring about the really grave issues like what is colloquially called revenge porn, or what one of the speakers mentioned, right, about somebody hacked the system and then started sharing nude photographs, etc. So sometimes today youngsters get into relationships very early, and they're very adventurous. Adults also are, for that matter, but youngsters more so. So they are bound to take or they may indulge in a little adventurous usage of the most dangerous weapon which is in their hand, which is this, the cameras. We have equipped everybody with not just a mobile, but a camera in their hands, right? So when the relationship is ongoing, they get adventurous, they take photographs, videos, etc. And when the relationship breaks, they may not be cautious enough to ensure that these are deleted. And then one of the persons in the relationship may start threatening the other, either to get back into the relationship, or unfortunately, in many instances that I've dealt with, it has also been for monetary gains, etc. And here was a gentleman who was speaking at a very large occasion and saying that, oh, there is no remedy for revenge porn. And that really worried me. Because if a practitioner did not realize that there were remedies in law, then how are victims going to know? So that was the other reason why I also started Cyber Saathi. And the third leg of Cyber Saathi focuses on this, to ensure that people know their remedies and how to avail of them also. Otherwise, it's very confusing. So here is a quick, brief look on that. You don't just have one law for cyber. Information Technology Act 2000 was one of the first codified enactments for cyber laws, but it's not the only law. it comprises certain provisions, because IT Act was meant only for e-commerce to begin with, and thereafter a lot of cybercrime provisions have been included. So for cases like revenge porn, for cases like cyberbullying, because again, there was one provision introduced in the IT Act 66A, which was struck down because of abuse in terms of particularly politically motivated cases, etc. The Supreme Court struck down the provision. After it was struck down, unfortunately, I hear too many people say there is no remedy for cyberbullying. Again, that is incorrect. The way in which you commit a crime, the mode and methodology used for committing the crime, and the outcome will dictate what are the provisions that will be applicable. There are provisions under the Information Technology Act for cyber crimes, including what we have already discussed, like hacking, virus attacks, denial of service attacks, which are predominantly financial oriented, and personal crimes like violating privacy, which amounts to violating the privacy, the private parts of a person, right? So sharing of nude photographs would come under that, including then also pornographic or sexually explicit content. And the most important thing that students need to know are two things. One is 67B of the IT Act, which makes child pornography an offense. Even browsing for child pornography is an offense. When you read the provisions of 67B, along with the POCSO Act, which is the prevention of sexual abuse of children, the protection is completely comprehensive. And one thing for schools and colleges, under POCSO, when it is an offense committed against a child, it's mandatory for a complaint to be filed. Non-filing of a criminal complaint itself is an offense. Therefore, when it is general, simple issues, the right thing, as Neeti ma'am said, is not to make it large, but to ensure that people know that what they're doing is wrong. But when it comes to things like sharing nude imagery, or morphed also, because many times I hear even very senior people say that if it is morphing is like you take somebody's face, you take another picture and then merge it together, right? And they say, but this is not really their picture, so what's the harm in sharing it? It's as harmful as sharing the same person's nude picture. There are cases of, and one of the most poignant cases in this is from the southern part of India, from Tamil Nadu, where a girl who had just completed college, etc., committed suicide, because she writes in her suicide note that even my parents didn't believe it's not my own photographs. Even if it is their own photographs, students should be taught that they should not go to such extremes, but should take recourse under law, because law does have remedies for them. So you have for offenses like revenge porn or cyber extortion, etc. I can't get into a very lengthy list, but believe me when I say that every form of cybercrime does have a remedy in law, and your easiest way of availing of this remedy today is you can file your complaint online on cybercrime.gov.in. Please note this down. It's so easy for you to remember. cybercrime.gov.in. And in terms of the methodology and how you should file your complaint, these two aspects are also covered in the course we are launching together with HT Schools. So please do avail of the opportunity to learn about it. And if you have general FAQs, you can use cybersaathi.org also as a reliable resource.
Thank you, Ms. Nappinai. We have very little time now for questions. So I have only one question because I'm getting a lot of real questions also. Dr. Bhavna, the question is for you. And I would request you to just maybe take 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes to answer that. Teachers are often target of cyberbullying, memes, fake accounts, etc. as well, And the perpetrator is often a school student. Is there any way schools have evolved a mechanism to safeguard teachers from cyberbullying from your experience? If you want to, briefly tell us about it.
Yes. Because this whole year, as I said, it was a platform where the teachers were teaching online. And it usually happens that sometimes some students who are very notorious, they give their passwords or something to the other children, or no, not children, but of other school or some other person. They could be some parents also, anybody could be there, and they enter. And we also, with the help of our computer teachers, we also develop a kind of a software from which we try to identify that who is doing it. And we caught a few children also, because you are right that these children are very smart, and they try to do the bullying, I mean the teachers also. So we have taken many kind of seminars also. And the basic thing which we are teaching them is the sense of responsibility. We teach
Sure.
them that if you want respect, you need to give the respect back. And the seminars we even have taken about the other things also. And we told them to avoid this situation, they must keep their personal informations, birth date, location. They should not share it. Second important thing, we told them to keep their codes little bit, usually they keep it their names only or date of birth only, which can be hacked easily. So we taught them to use the stronger passwords for their computers, or and these kind of the things through which we are trying to save our teachers. Although the children are children, and only with the love and affection and with teaching, we can only teach them to be more respectable, more generous, and more genuinely they attend uh, this internet
Absolutely, ma'am.
activities.
Absolutely. Counseling and advice has a great power to be able to, mold
We need to
children.
tell them that they have to be extra careful. They are
Sure.
visiting different kind of websites through where they are actually learning these things. And they
Yes.
always, this is young mind. As ma'am told, the class 2 we start teaching them the good touch and bad touch. We need to teach them this also, because a
True.
very small
True.
child, it is it's a habit, it's a curiosity that they want to experiment the new things. So
Sure.
only
Thank
through
you,
the
Bhavna,
love
ma'am.
and affection we can teach them.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I
Thank you. We
wanted
have, yeah, we have very little time now. I have a lot of questions here. I might just read out a couple of those. And if briefly, there is a question from the Air Force School, Subroto Park, the Vice Principal, Nomina Rajiv, and Miss Nappinai, if even just in one sentence, maybe you could tell us what is the best way to send credentials and login details to students while working remotely? Is there an answer that you have right now?
Well, that would be, yeah, one sentence is a bit difficult, but yes, because, we can go into issues like encrypted methodologies, etc. But a safe bet may be a simple way of doing it, maybe to use two different devices or two different mails, so that the login credentials, the username, and the password are not part of a single communication link.
Sure.
At least that way you're ring fencing the risks involved.
Sure, sure. The next question is from Mrs. Subha Lakshana, HDFC School. She is asking, would you say access to online chatting, internet, texting are a right or responsibility for the teams? I think from basis this discussion, I will answer this question. Exercise your right responsibility. Be aware of the rules and dangers of technology. Be a safe cyber citizen. I think that's the only highly recommended advice that has come out today. One, I think, last, not a question, but a beautiful statement from a parent. It's anonymous. The legal age for opening any social media account in our country is 13 plus. Yet a very high percentage of urban kids with accounts are in less than 13 years bracket. She is making a humble request to all parents to not allow this and be careful. I think that's beautifully said. Thank you all. This has been an enriching discussion. I think it is time to rise up to cyber hygiene and etiquettes for children. And as we see, it is clearly being established as a subject of ongoing learning. The takeaway for students is think before you click, think before you connect. Instead of saying no to technology, say yes to cyber safety. It is important to have prior knowledge of trends and methodologies, as Ms. Nappinai put it, being used to commit such crimes. This could save us from being victimized or unknowingly being a perpetrator of cybercrime. Children, you must pledge to have an online discipline. Thank you all for sparing time to join us today on this very important subject of cyber safety for students. I'm sure there has been a huge learning for all of us who listen in to us today. Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay indoors.